I am 30. And here on YouTube, that means I am ancient. But it also means I don't get to do the whole old man yells at cloud routine very often, since most of the stuff I liked as a kid never really went away. But if there's one franchise that gets me fired up like that, it's Assassin's Creed. There was a considerable amount of time there for a while where I considered it to be my favorite video game franchise. I still remember Christmas break in 2007. While multiplayer FPSs were having a banner year, I was pouring hours into that original game. Yeah, it was clunky and repetitive, but the loop of finding a target, scouting an area, busting out the hidden blade, and getting away from a horde of armed guards while leaping across rooftops, that was addicting. And as the sequel started rolling out, I went through all the highs and lows. The fresh-faced energy of Assassin's Creed 2, the refined gameplay of Brotherhood, the overstuffed backsliding of Revelations, the clumsy mess of AC3, and the surprise success of Black Flag. I honestly kind of wish they would do more pirate games. But once Ubisoft decided to make the console jump with Unity in 2014, I quickly fell off the bandwagon. I still played Rogue because I had a 360 at the time, but I was a junior in college and didn't exactly have the money or time to drop $400 on a PlayStation 4. And given Unity's reviews, I felt happy with that decision. By the time Syndicate dropped, the writing was on the wall. The brand was worn out. None of the surprisingly large number of spin-offs were catching on, and it was time for some new ideas. To Ubisoft's credit, something I do not say often, they managed to shake things up starting with Origins, and the RPG format of the last few games has built up its own fanbase. But for all the love Odyssey and Valhalla both got, it was never enough to actually bring me back to the series. Gone was the focus of being an actual assassin, and in its place were some of the worst trends in modern gaming. It really hit me just how disconnected I was from the series when I got my hands on a PS5. Valhalla was one of its launch titles and had decent reviews, but I wanted nothing to do with it. To me, it wasn't Assassin's Creed anymore. Turns out, I wasn't alone. The outcry from a portion of the AC fanbase over the RPG changes in recent games was apparently loud enough that Ubisoft decided to make a deliberate throwback to the early games with Assassin's Creed Mirage. The microtransactions and leveling systems are gone, the focus on assassinations and stealth are back, and we've got a Middle Eastern setting reminiscent of the original game. And that was just enough for a lapsed fan like me to give it a shot. Was it worth it?
Ooh, short answer yes with an if, long answer no with a but.
Once you get past the admittedly gorgeous setting, most of the resemblance is in the gameplay, with the return of the notoriety system, a focus on assassination missions, and a heavy emphasis on stealth tactics. Unlike with Ezio's small armory of weapons, you've only got a sword, a dagger, and a hidden blade at your disposal, and straight-up combat is basically pointless until you respond to an enemy's attack with either a parry or a dodge roll. That's fine if you're only dealing with one enemy, but once you attempt to take on a group, you're pretty much asking for one of the game's very violent death cinematics. I swear, the old games didn't have this. Basically, the game will beat you into submission until you agree to take a stealthier approach. But once you upgrade tools like the throwing knives and the blow darts, it makes being stealthy infinitely more fun. There's also not nearly as much filler as those early titles. All of the collectibles either go towards money or better gear, and there's a steady flow of contracts for extra one-off missions. But the game is at its best when you're put in enclosed areas like palaces, libraries, and bazaars in order to take out specific targets. Sneaking your way through a crowded environment, wiping out guards one by one, desperately trying to make an escape after completing a mission. It all scratches that same itch as those original games. The same, however, cannot be said for the story. You play as Basim, a young assassin in 9th century Baghdad, taking part in the same old Brotherhood versus Templars conflict we see in every game. The only thing I knew about him was that he had previously appeared in Valhalla, and at first I didn't think much of him. We see him start out as a street rat, his decision to become an assassin takes place off-screen, and most of his cutscenes involve him getting pointed in the direction of his next target. His one unique character trait is that he's seemingly being haunted by a demonic genie. After taking out what you think is the last of your targets, it looks like the plot is finally going to get around to answering the whole genie nonsense, only to smack you in the face with a bizarre ending that the game doesn't even attempt to address. I was left completely dumbfounded and had to do a fan wiki deep dive and binge a few explainer videos just to attempt to make sense of things. I won't spoil it, but basically you'll need to know the entire plot of Valhalla and its DLC, while also remembering the Sage business first introduced back in Black Flag in order to understand any of it. And now that I am caught up, I still can't make heads or tails of why the developers went this route in the first place. Mirage is laser focused at bringing back lapsed fans like me, but if you don't know Basim's shockingly long backstory, the ending will make absolutely no sense. And if you did play Valhalla, then you already know all of the beats of this story before it even happens. I know this because many of those explainer videos recapped Basim's time in Baghdad verbatim long before Mirage came out. It's funny, I don't even know if I can be mad at the game for this. AC's modern narrative has been an albatross wrapped around the franchise's neck from the start. And whether it was embracing the 2012 Mayan calendar conspiracy theory, animus-induced comas, or reimagining of Norse mythology that God of War Ragnarok would embarrass 2 years later, it's never been interesting enough to justify its own existence and has made for some truly bizarre endings. In the end, I was mad at myself. I was expecting Mirage to be a callback to a version of Assassin's Creed that never really existed. I wouldn't call Mirage a pointless experience. I had fun diving back into the classic stealth missions, and you might too. Plus, with a runtime of 15 hours, it never really has the chance to overstay its welcome. But I don't expect to be lining up for whatever Project Red winds up being next year. Partially because I'm worried Ubisoft will go right back to the RPG format, but mostly because Ghost of Tsushima already exists. Thanks for watching.